What's going on YouTube? So the CX-30 has been a successful product for the Mazda brand because it has that value-packed and also luxurious style. And for 2026, they're continuing to add a ton to this model with a new trim like we have today and added features this year to enhance the value. So what's new, and is this the small crossover for you? Let's go ahead and find out. As always, let's start things off with a quick spec dump. So under the hood of the 2026 CX-30, you'll find two different powertrains. This is the standard 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine, which makes 191 horsepower. It's paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission, standard all-wheel drive, and combined fuel economy is 27 mpg.
Now the base price for this year is about $26,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now later on in this review, we will take it out for a spin as well as get things like our signature sound level reading and wrap things up with resale and reliability.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because we need to take a look at the exclusive exterior as well as interior details. So getting into the exterior design, I want to start by talking about some trim level adjustments. So they've actually taken some trims away and added some new ones for 2026. You can see that displayed down below me. And today we have a new model. So this is called the Aire edition. And unlike the iPhone Air, this is not actually skinnier or smaller. This instead is going to give you a little bit more of an aggressive overall design. That starts right here in the front. So new this year is a blacked out badge. This is for the Air edition, and you also get this now on models with the turbocharged engine. You'll notice the rest of the face though also has the aggressive blacked out going through there and underneath of our headlights. Now, speaking of the headlights, you have a standard full LED headlight on all models. However, if you get a turbo or a premium model, you get adaptive LEDs, which are a little bit fancier than this. And then down below, we have our separated fading LED turn signal. Moving on to the wheels, you start with 16-inch alloys. However, the vast majority of trim levels come with 18-inch alloy wheels. You can see here with our Air edition, we have a gloss black finish. We also, of course, have the gloss black logo in the center as well. And you can see as well that we have pretty thick cladding. That, of course, is a CX-30 signature element to kind of toughen it up and make it look a little bit bigger than it is. Also, when we come up here to the mirrors, we have a gloss black finish up here. Blind spot monitoring is standard on all versions of the CX-30, and new for 2026, they've actually brought down the feature of a tilt down to all but the base trim level.
At the side of the CX-30, your overall length is 173 inches, which is shorter than some of the other competitors in this class. We'll talk about that when it comes to rear seat and cargo space later on. And as far as any design features, everything is blacked out here on the side as well as your roof rails up top. But as we continue here to the rear, you do continue on with the aggressive yet elegant design for this model. And as far as some of your individual elements, you have a gloss black spoiler here up top, an exposed rear wiper, and then all of the badging here is blacked out. I really like that Mazda does not skimp out on any of the badging. Everything gets it, and some do actually cheap out on that. Another thing they don't cheap out on are these tail lights here. They are fully LED, including your brake light, your turn signal, which fades in and out, and your reverse light, a nice premium and standard feature for the CX-30. And then down here at the bottom, the bumper is going to be fully matte black, to follow along with the rest of the cladding for this model, and you do have standard dual exposed exhaust outlets. And as far as safety is concerned, you will get all four of your standard systems as standard equipment for the CX-30, and you even include things like standard rear cross traffic alert. If you want some additional features like rear auto braking and traffic jam assist, you will have to go for the Turbo Premium Plus model. But now we have an exclusive interior to this Air edition to check out. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then, we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. All right, time to check out the interior first. Here's our key fob, typical Mazda key fob, and you have a smart entry system on board. Getting inside the vehicle, just grab behind that handle. It will unlock the door with a sensor. And then let's check out the interior. So, like Josh was saying, we actually have an exclusive interior for this Aire edition, but I'll kind of walk you through what you get with the other trims as well. So you get a standard cloth seat if you get the base trim. However, everything except for that now comes with the leatherette seat. Of course, with this Aire edition, you can see we've got kind of a mixture of materials. So you get this gray cloth trim that runs through the center section, and then this light colored kind of grayish leatherette that runs around the outside edges. I think this looks really, really nice. It kind of reminds me of that fashionable Volvo interior that we've seen that they make with wool, except this is a lot less hot overall. Now, as we look down below, we've got our power seat. This is an adjustment for 2026 as well, because this is now standard on all but the very base trim level. It's been added to the Select Sport. Also added is memory seats to even that Select Sport, and you'll see that located right there. Let's go ahead and climb inside. Closing up the door here, we'll look at the rest of the cabin materials, starting with the armrest portion, very nicely padded leatherette with a stitched detail, leatherette through here as well as through here, and a soft touch plastic along the top. As we move to the upper dashboard, all of this is finished in a soft touch material with a stitching detail. The center section of the Aire edition, we have a very light colored kind of suede finish, which I think looks quite nice. And if you're wondering why Mazda called this the Aire edition, they actually said that it's really about the interior because they chose light materials to make it feel nice and airy in here. I will say it does feel a little bit more spacious than when you're in one of those dark interiors that kind of draws in on you. Now, finishing up the materials though, we've got a nice leather padding across the center console here, and everything feels very solid in typical Mazda fashion. This certainly stands out against basically every single competitor in the segment for having the best quality interior. With the vehicle all fired up, we can dig into individual details like always, and we'll start with the gauge cluster. This has a partially digital gauge cluster with a 7-inch multi-function display in the middle. You have a few different designs that you can switch between. Also, if you get the premium trim or above, that will give you a head-up display. Now, let's kind of pull back here. First of all, I do want to mention, like pretty much the entire Mazda lineup, you have standard rain sensing wipers across all trim levels, and we have a very nice leather wrap steering wheel with that same gray stitch here on the Aire edition. New for 2026, the premium trim adds heating ability as standard equipment on the steering wheel, and of course it is manual tilt and telescoping. Moving over here to our center storage, we've got very nice stitched leather wrapped console here, and when I slide that back and lift it up, you'll find some donuts inside. That's because, of course, at Car Confections we put donuts inside the center console so we can compare the volume to the rivals. Inside of here we have 10 donuts, and as you can see, this is quite large, so while it doesn't quite hit the dozen, this is pretty good for the segment. Now, as we move in front of that, you'll notice a couple more cup holders, and then you've got a wireless phone charging pad. This is now standard on the preferred trim for 2026 and above. Taking a look at the shifter. Traditional style, nothing complicated here. Pull back for drive, bump to the left if you want to shift manually. There are not paddle shifters on the steering wheel unless you go for the turbo trim level. When we go into reverse, here's our standard backup camera. As you can see, nothing too fancy about that. It just has the guidelines, no active trajectory. We've got back parking sensors, and as I mentioned on the outside, almost every single trim level comes with the tilt-down mirrors, which will help you, of course, when you are parking for 2026. I also want to mention the 360 camera is now on the premium trim level for 2026. Back behind that, you have your electronic parking brake with your auto brake hold function. You have your control knob for the infotainment system as well. And then you have your volume knob on the right-hand side. So for 2026, the 8-speaker sound system becomes standard equipment. There's also still a Bose 12-speaker sound system available, but we'll sample the 8-speaker system. I have to say, sound quality of this system is quite impressive. Honestly, this 8-speaker bass sound system is better than a lot of the rivals' upgraded sound systems. Now, as far as your climate setup is concerned, you get the dual zone automatic climate on all but the base trim level, so you can, very quickly adjust your temperature up and down. You have full physical controls located right there, so it's super simple. Also, you have heated seats on all but the base trim level for 2026. All right, let's dig into our main display though. So of course, as you can see, it's kind of recessed up there on the top of the dashboard. And this display can be two different sizes. So standard is an 8.8-inch display, or you have a 10.25-inch display, which has expanded availability for 2026. We do have that upgraded screen size, so it's a little bit larger there. And as you can see, we're also running wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto systems, which are included on most of the trim levels. Some of the lower trims, though, have a wired connection. Just be aware of that. It is a touchscreen when you're inside of these systems, but some of the main UI functions in the Mazda system have to be done with this control knob. Up top here, we have a manual dimming mirror. Auto dimming is available on upper end examples. And then the preferred trim and above come with this power sunroof.
So we talked about this on the side as far as this being smaller than others in this segment, and let's go ahead and talk about those actual space figures. So as far as your rear seat legroom, I'm sitting at 36 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. So as expected, that is smaller than some of your competitors in the segment, and especially when it comes to your realistic knee room as well, which is why we brought along the unofficial Car Confections ruler to figure that out. Don't worry, the measurement is still the same. I'm sitting at about 4.5 inches of additional knee space. So it's not bad for someone who's 5'9", sitting behind Drew's 5'8" driving position. But if you are any taller than we are, which apparently according to the comments everyone is, you might be a little bit cramped. But as far as the features go themselves, there are some additions for 2026. You do have vents back here that is standard on the Select and above for this year, as well as this center armrest as well. So if you get that anything but the base trim level, you will get these features, which is nice because not even top trims of the HR-V have this rear armrest. And then as far as anything else, let's look at your door trim. It is going to be a little bit cheaper than the front. It's hard touch at the top all the way down to the door handle, but then below you still continue to have leather padding as well as a leatherette covered armrest with the stitching detail. And you do have ample storage in the bottom of the door. I can't even fit things like my water bottle down here. For the cargo area, in order to access this area, it's going to be manual here on the Aire Edition. If you want a power one, you have to go for the premium trim or above. But now let's go ahead and look at your overall cargo space. Once again, it's going to be a little bit smaller. You're sitting at about 20 cubic feet behind the second row here. And if I reach up and fold this row, which is pretty easy to do for someone of my height, you're looking at about 45 cubic feet of space overall. But if you want to know how this compares to all of the competition in multiple different metrics, including cargo capacity, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. On there, we've gone through and ranked all of the options in this very busy and competitive segment on the categories that are most important to you, the subcompact crossover buyer. So if you're interested in checking that out, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, as far as any other features back here in the rear of the CX-30, you do have a little bit of LED lighting, and then if you lift up the floor, you still also have a spare tire, which is becoming an increasingly rare feature nowadays. It's time to take the CX-30 out for a test drive, and during this test drive, we're going to be covering a lot of different things, as you can see on the screen right now, including getting things like our sound level reading. But first, let's start out with a hard acceleration.
that was 60 miles per hour with this CX-30. So when it comes to the powertrain options with this model, there's two. You can continue to get the standard 4-cylinder engine. That's what most trims will have. That's also what we have today. And you can also get a turbocharged engine as well if you really want to have that kind of class above experience. So as far as this one, we have a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated, has 191 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. Those are pretty good figures for this segment. This tends to be very low-powered segment in general, so just the standard engine by itself has a big leg up, honestly, over a lot of the competition. You can see that in the acceleration.
Yeah, and if you really want to go for the powerful model, the turbo does have 250 horsepower on premium fuel, is 227 without premium fuel, and 320 pound-feet of torque. So that is just a lot of power for this segment. It's going to get up and go really well. We've tested that, and you can check out different reviews that we've done on that model on the channel. And it's really becoming a rare feature in this segment nowadays, or even within the Mazda lineup, because as far as we know, the upcoming 2026 CX-5 does not bring that turbo engine into this all-new model. So it's becoming increasingly rare, so I hope Mazda keeps it around as long as they can.
Yeah, definitely. The turbo models are really targeting the subcompact luxury segment more so than even this. So you could definitely cross-shop this with some of the entry-level luxury options like a BMW X1, Mercedes GLA, or something like that. Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, we've got a 6-speed automatic on board. Overall, shifting is nice and smooth with this transmission, and because this is a fairly torque-rich powertrain, both of them are, it's not really too much of a problem that it's only 6 speeds. I also want to mention that you have standard all-wheel drive. Again, that's something in the class that some of the rivals don't even offer at all.
Yeah, overall, it really helps make this model definitely a more sporty option in the segment. We're approaching our curve up here, and so Drew will go ahead and pop it in the sport mode. And before we reach it, I do also want to mention you have a new limited slip differential for 2026. It's standard on all of your models, but let's look at some of your dynamics for this model.
Yeah, so as we kind of throw it around this corner here, really helps demonstrate the superior driving dynamics of Mazda. This segment, very kind of really low-key, very ordinary. Driving dynamics is not a focus for the average thing in this segment. This vehicle is actually fun. When you throw it into a corner, it handles it very nicely. You can see that the body control, nicely done. Also, the steering has a good feel to it. You get a quick response. It's not overly heavy. And here's something I want to talk about for 2026. We haven't talked about it up to this point, but Mazda actually adjusted the dampers on the model for 2026. And what they were targeting is a little bit of a better balance between ride and handling. And I think they have achieved that. So you saw we actually demonstrate the dynamic ability is still there with this model. But now we have that better ride quality. And we've been driving it around this afternoon quite a bit over some rough pavement. And I can definitely confirm it does feel like it rides quite a bit better than before. It really just takes that sharpness out, making it just a bit smoother. And I think bringing it kind of into the average category for the segment. It's not the softest thing you can get, but it's not any longer one of the harshest options in the segment.
Yeah, I'd be even willing to say that combined with these comfortable seats, it would be even able to take on things like the CX-50 and the class above in terms of overall ride quality and comfort. But now that we are speeding up to 55 miles an hour, we can go ahead and get our sound level reading. We do have it set to fan speed 1. 58.2 is where we're going to settle at for the 2026 CX-30. And I don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to all of its many rivals. I can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings to find that out. And overall, that is a pretty good sound level reading. It's going to place in about the middle of the segment. So you're going to have some that are going to be quieter, some that are going to be louder. But overall, it tends to be a pretty quiet cabin overall. Really refined experience when it comes to comparing against things like a Honda HR-V. Now on the day-to-day, let's also talk about your fuel economy. You have two different ratings, one for each engine with standard all-wheel drive. For this base engine, you'll be sitting at 27 mpg combined, and for the turbo model, down to 25 mpg combined. One thing you're still missing is the hybrid model. That is something the new CX-5 is going to bring to the table, and it's something that we would love to see Mazda add for this model in the future as well. But please keep the turbo, Mazda, please.
Yeah, we want both options.
Yeah.
Let's talk about today's slam dunk and airball. I'll start with the slam dunk. That is going to be our 2026 upgrades, and the fact that those really play into the kind of class above experience and features that you get with this CX-30. We've kind of talked about that throughout, but really you get a pretty high level vehicle, that's for sure. And in certain configurations, it can even take on luxury options.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when I was getting ready for this and writing for this video. There were a lot of changes there that I got to write down. But on the airball side of things, one thing they still haven't changed is the overall space and packaging of the CX-30. Both the rear seats and the cargo leave some to be desired, especially when you compare it against other larger options within the segment itself. So we've been talking about a value throughout this entire review, but let's talk about the actual price. For 2026, prices are up no more than $1,000 on each trim. So you're going to be starting at $25,975 for the base S model. This Aire edition with the base engine is right under $30,000. And if you go all the way up to the Turbo Premium Plus, it's going to be close to $38,000 as your starting price. But as far as what we have as equipped today, we do have the 2026 CX-30 in the Aire edition. Your MSRP is just under $30K. So after a few options, including this optional paint and $1,495 destination, you're looking at $32,355 overall. And if you're concerned as to where this is made, it is made in Mexico. And if you're looking to buy a CX-30 or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. On there, it'll help connect you to local dealers in your area to get you the best price. You can also access tools such as things for invoice pricing, as well as a monthly payment tool. If you're curious in checking that out, we have a link in the video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. Now, buying a car is much more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. Let's start with resale value. Using Mason's economics degree, we've taken the time to determine what we think is a good estimate of this Mazda CX-30's resale value. After 5 years, it'll be worth about 59.44% of its original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 25.28%. Now that's worth noting that is above the overall industry average and one of the best in the entire auto industry, and is right up there with things such as Subaru and Toyota.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several reliability studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you the most holistic picture. In this regard, Mazda is rated above the overall industry average for all vehicle brands.
Now, if you're interested in checking out our detailed resale and reliability rankings, as well as our methodology, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is a big decision. You want to make sure you're doing the proper research when it comes to cross-shopping different vehicle makes. Now, as far as Mazda's warranty, you have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty, and they do not offer any complimentary maintenance. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed this in-depth review of the 2026 Mazda CX-30. If you enjoyed hearing the changes as well as checking out this new trim level, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe down below. When you do that, it allows us to access all of the latest and greatest vehicles like this one today. If you're already a subscriber, we appreciate your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.